In the next few minutes, we will build an e-commerce chatbot without writing a single line of code. This chatbot will be able to handle everything related to our store, like product inquiries, order tracking, and dealing with returns, and much more. And of course, you will be able to integrate this chatbot into any website as well, like Shopify, Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, as well as any custom website. If you're new to Chatling, it's a no-code platform that makes it super easy to build chatbots for any type of business. They also offer a free tier, which you can use to follow along with this video and get your first chatbot up and running today. If you sign up using the link in the description of this video, then you will be supporting my channel. First, let's have a look at what we'll be building in this video. This chatbot will be able to perform 4 important functions. First, it will be able to answer questions from our custom knowledge base. And this includes the products listed on our e-commerce website, as well as some other information about our business. This means that users can ask questions like, I'm looking for a gaming mouse, any recommendations? And our assistant gave us this response based on the actual listings on our website. And during the course of this video, I'll also show you how to include a direct link in this response to the product page. Our chatbot will also be able to track orders. So if the user asks something like, what is my order status? You will notice this little message saying that there was an intent match and the intent matched order status. This means that instead of answering questions from a knowledge base, our chatbot effectively handed over to this order status flow, which we can see down here. And now the chatbot is asking us for an order number. So I'll just enter some random number. And this chatbot effectively reached out to an API endpoint, which we will implement in this video. And this returns some information about the delivery date of this order. And now we can either continue with the conversation or end it. The third feature is that our chatbot can also deal with returns and exchanges. So the user could enter something like, I'm not happy with my order. It's defective. How can I return it? We can now see that the intent matched this route called returns and exchange. And now the chatbot is asking the user whether they want to do a return or an exchange. Let's just say that we wanted to return this item. Now it will collect several information from us. So I'll just enter the order number. And now it's asking for the email address. And I'll just enter leon@test.com. Now it's asking which items in the order we want to exchange. So let's just say all of them. And what's the reason? I'll just enter it's defective. And at this stage, it's telling us that it's logged the return. But what actually happened behind the scenes is that the chatbot sent an email to our support department to log this return. And that takes us to the fourth feature of this chatbot. And that's the ability to hand this conversation over to a human agent. So let's say we had a conversation with the agent and we just didn't find a suitable response. What we could do is ask something like, please can a human call me back, or something in those lines. And we can see that the intent matched this human agent path. And now we can simply provide our email address, like leon@test.com. I need more information about product XYZ. And at this stage, our agent sent an email to the support team. And this email actually contains a lot of information about this conversation, which also includes the entire conversation history. Now let's have a look at building all of this from scratch. Head over to chatling.ai and log into your account, or use the link in the description of this video. From this dashboard, create a new chatbot by clicking on Create Chatbot. And from here, you can select from a list of templates, which also includes an e-commerce starter, but we'll be creating our chatbot from scratch. Let's give our chatbot a name. I'll call it Vault and Vector Agent, and Vault and Vector is the name of my fictitious e-commerce website. Then let's click on Create. From this dashboard, we can view all sorts of statistics about our chatbot, but if you are on the free plan, some of this might be grayed out, but it really doesn't matter. You will still be able to create your chatbot nonetheless. Let's actually start with our knowledge base. To add a data source, click on Add New, and now we can add all sorts of data sources. A very common use case for e-commerce websites are to simply scrape the website for all the product pages. So if you have a website, you can simply enter the URL and then let Chatling do its thing. But what I prefer to do is to upload a document containing my product information. The results, in my opinion, are just way better than trying to scrape websites. So what I did is I created this text file, and this simply contains the name, description, price, and a rating of each of these products. So you would get the product name, the description, you would also see the price, and a rating out of 5. And I also created this PDF document that contains some information about the company, like their history, the mission statement, core values, contact information, etc. So all I have to do is select those files off my machine, then I can click on submit. So if I go back to our knowledge base, we can see that those documents are currently being processed, and after a few seconds our documents were processed and uploaded. Now let's create our chatbot. Let's click on Builder, and from here we can build our chatbot by adding blocks to the canvas. So if I click on blocks, we can send messages, we can capture information from the user, we can add AI responses, and a lot more. But before we add any blocks to this canvas, I first want to adjust a few settings. First, let's go to AI configuration and let's click on instructions. We can use instructions to provide all sorts of information to our AI assistant, like their name, their role, their tone, etc. We can either manually enter those instructions, or we can click on View Examples and just select from one of these. I'm going to add this very first prompt, which says your name is Joanne and you are our customer support assistant. When referring to yourself, do not mention anything about being an AI assistant or AI model. Instead, refer to yourself as Joanne. I'm going to add some extra instructions here, and this says when answering questions about product inquiries, please include a URL to the product page. The URL is simply this address / the product name in lowercase with a dash in between the words. Now, of course, this would be unique to your website, so you can adjust this instruction specific to your use case. And that's actually all we have to change. Let's go to Add Blocks, and let's start by creating a chatbot that can answer questions about our products. So a simple RAG chatbot. When the user starts the conversation, we want our assistant to send some welcome message. So I'll call this group Greeting, and for the text, let's simply enter something like Welcome to Walt and Victor. So when the conversation starts, this message will pop up. So let me show you this. When we click on preview, we can see that it takes a second and then this welcome message appears. We can make this look way more natural by adding another text block within this group, and maybe this could say something like, I am Joanne, how can I assist you today? Now, if we preview this, we can see that greeting message show up, and after a second, we get this I am Joanne message. Now, at the moment, we can't send any messages. We can only start a new chat. In order to allow the user to input information, we can go to Blocks, and within Capture Response, we have the ability to add buttons, we can capture text, email addresses, and a lot more. Let's add this text block. Let's rename this group to Capture User Question, and let's attach the greeting to this new group. This captured text block will allow the user to enter information into an input field. Now what we want to do is grab the text that the user entered and store it in a variable that we can use throughout this flow. Luckily, that's super simple. Within Save in Variable, we can select from a list of predefined variables, or we can create our own by entering any name for the variable like user_query, and then we can click on Create to create this variable. Next, we want to use a large language model to answer the user's question from the knowledge base. So we can just go to Add Blocks, let's add AI Response, let's rename this group to Get Answer from Knowledge Base. Of course, let's attach this user question group to our new node. Then, if we click on this AI block, we can select the response structure from either knowledge base or just from the AI model itself. Of course, we want to answer the question from the knowledge base, so we'll leave it on that. Then for the question, we will use the variable that we created earlier. To select the variable, simply enter an opening curly brace. Then in this list, we can view all the available variables, and what we're interested in is user query. And believe it or not, that's all we need to build a RAG chatbot. Now let's go ahead and preview this. So in the chat, let's ask something like, I'm looking for a gaming mouse, and we get our response back, and you will also notice that we get a URL to the product page, which of course doesn't exist, but you can see this is working. But this also ends the conversation. So we actually can't ask any follow-up questions, and all we can do is start a new chat, which is not ideal. So to allow the user to ask follow-up questions, all we have to do is grab this AI response block and loop it back around to capture text. So it should look something like this. So after we ask a question, you will notice that we are able to ask follow-up questions. Next, let's have a look at adding additional functionality to this chatbot, like the ability to track orders. By default, the chatbot will attempt to answer the question from the knowledge base. But in certain instances, the chatbot should realize that it needs to route the user down a different path. For instance, if the user's question is related to tracking an order, then it needs to route the user down the order tracking path. This is where intents come from. So after the user submits their question, the flow will first check if there are any intents matching the user's keywords, and if not, it will continue with this next step. But if this text matches any intents within this flow, it will route the user down those intents path. To create a new intent, we can go to blocks, then under triggers, we can add the intent trigger. We can then select from all the available intents, and since we don't have any, we can create a new intent. We can start by giving our intent a name, like order status, and for the description, we can enter customer wants to know the status or location of their order. But the description is not all that important. What is important are sample phrases. The chatbot will try to match the user's question to these sample phrases, and if it's a close match, then it knows to route the user down this path. So a common phrase could be something like, where is my order? Or maybe something like, when will my order arrive? Let's add a few more, like track my package. What's the status of order number that? Has my order been shipped yet? And I'll just add a few more. I would recommend adding as many phrases as possible, or at least until you get a score of 100 out of 100. Then let's create our intent. Then from the drop-down list, let's select our intent, and we now have an order status route. Now to hook up this input field to our intent, we can simply click on this capture text block, then under match intent, click on add and select order status. So now after the user enters their question, this chatbot will first check if the question matches this intent, or otherwise continue answering questions from the knowledge base. Right, now let's continue building this intent path. The first thing we want to do is send some text back to the user. I'll just call this group prompt for order number. With the text, please enter your order number to check its status, and connect our intent trigger to this block. After asking for the order number, we need to provide the user some way of actually entering that number. So under capture response, let's add this capture text block. Let's hook these up. Let's rename this group to capture and store order number. Within this capture text block, we can create a new variable, and let's call this order number. And let's create it. And now the order number will be stored in this variable, so we can use it later on in the flow. Now it's very possible that the user could enter an invalid order number, or more specifically, a number that's not the correct length, or it doesn't contain the correct characters. So we can use an LLM to validate that the number is indeed in the correct format. So let's go to blocks, let's add AI response, let's rename this group to validate order number, and let's attach these two groups. Then in the AI response, let's change this from knowledge base to AI model instead. And for the prompt, we can enter something like, you are an order number validator. Let's actually extend this a bit. You are an order number validator. Your task is to evaluate whether a given order number is valid and in the correct format. Then we can simply specify the rules of the number formatting. But what is important is we are adding the order number variable here so that our AI response has a view of it. Then we're saying that if the order number is correct and meets all the criteria, then output the number 1. If the order number is incorrect or fails to meet the criteria, then output the number 0. And very important, your response should only consists of the digit 0 or 1 without anything else. So I do want to show you what that looks like. So let's go to preview. Let's enter something like, what is my order status? And we can see that we are in this intent path now. We can see that this is valid because technically it is following our criteria. But let's try something that's invalid. So let's just ask again, what is my order status? And let's enter something that's invalid. So I'll add spaces and let's send this. And this time we are seeing a 0, which means that this number is invalid. Now, obviously we don't want to show that 1 or 0 to the user, so we can actually disable display response. Furthermore, we want to do something with that value. So if the value is 0, we want to tell the user that the format is incorrect and ask them to try again. Or if the value is 1, then we want to continue checking the order status. So how can we do that? Well, it's quite easy. Within blocks, we can add a variable condition just below this AI response. Within configure condition, we can do routing based on the response generated by this AI model. Now, obviously, we need to store this response in a variable so that we can use it within this block. So back in the AI response node, let's go down to save response in variable. Let's give it a name like order number validation. Let's create this variable, and now the value of 0 or 1 will be stored in this variable. This means that in our variable condition block, we can click on this condition label field. Let's call this valid order number. Then under the list of variables, let's select order number validation. And for the operator, let's select equals. And for the value, we'll check for 1. So that means that if the response being returned from the model is 1, then we'll follow this path. Else, if it's not 1, we'll follow this path. In fact, let's start with the else path. Let's go to blocks. Let's add a text block. Let's rename this group to reprompt. And for the text, let's enter the order number is invalid. Please check and enter a valid order number. So we can now connect the else path to this reprompt group. And then we want the user to enter the number again. So all we have to do is attach this group to the capture text block, like so. For the positive path, we want to retrieve the actual order status. There are many ways to do this, but realistically, you will most likely call an API endpoint. Now, I don't have an actual API for this demo, so we will be using a mock API provided by Chatling. But in your application, you can just have a look at the documentation to find the exact APIs that you need to call. To add this block, go to blocks, and let's add the HTTP request block. And let's place it over here. Let's rename this group to retrieve order status, and I'm also going to attach this positive path to the retrieve order status group. Now let's have a look at the contents of this block. I'm going to use this mock API that is provided by Chatling, and you can find this endpoint by looking at the e-commerce template provided by Chatling. Then under headers, let's add a new header. Let's add this authorization property, and let's also add in this bearer token. This is needed to securely authenticate this API call. And chances are your platform will also require some sort of authentication. Then under body, let's add a new value called order number, and now we can pass in the variable that we created earlier called order number. And finally, we want to get the response back from the service. So under capture response, let's add a new field called message. And now we can store this message in a new variable called order underscore status. And let's create this variable. This was by far the most complicated step in this entire flow, and everything else will seem very simple in comparison. Now, this service could be successful or it could fail. As an example, the API endpoint could be unavailable or some other technical failure occurred. So let's actually deal with the negative path first. If the call to the service failed, we can ask the user to retry. So let's add a new text block. We can rename this group to ask to retry. Let's send the text. I couldn't fetch the status of your order. Would you like to try again? And let's add a few buttons to allow the user to say yes or no. So let's add buttons. let's add it below this text. And for button 1, let's simply enter yes. And let's add another button with the label of no. And let's also attach this fail path to ask to retry. And if the user clicks on yes, then we can simply loop them all the way back to prompt for order number, restarting this process. If the user clicks on no, then our chatbot can ask them a user-friendly question like, is there anything else I can assist you with? Let's also rename this group to confirmation. Let's attach this no button to this confirmation group. And again, we want to give the user some ability to select yes or no. So as you would have guessed, we'll add buttons. The first button being yes, or the second button being no. And the reason I'm adding this confirmation group and not simply ending the conversation outright is we will reuse this confirmation group for some of the other intents as well. It just creates a user-friendly experience instead of terminating the chat outright. Now, if the user says no, they don't need assistance with anything else, then it's safe to terminate this conversation, but we just don't want to end it abruptly, but we want our agent to give some friendly message. So let's attach this no button to the end chat group, and for the text, we can enter, "Thank you for chatting with us today. If you have any questions, feel free to start a new chat." I don't know about you, but I think that's a friendly and suitable way to end the conversation. So if the user selects yes, it means they want to continue with the conversation and maybe ask follow-up questions. So it would make sense then to take them back to this initial capture text node. So all we have to do is attach this yes button to the capture users question group. And now they can do things like ask questions about products and whatever else. Now that was a little bit of a detour, but these two buttons are important for the rest of this flow. But of course, what do we do if we were able to retrieve the order status? Well, that's quite simple. We simply want to show the response to the user. So let's go to blocks. Let's add a new text block. Let's attach this success path to our new group. Let's call this group display order status. And for the text, all we have to do is show the variable order status, like so. And just as a refresher, order status is populated from this API call. So if we go to response, we can see that message was indeed saved in order status. Now, after we showed the order status, I think it would make sense to show this confirmation message asking the user if there's anything else they need assistance with. Let's go ahead and test this. So in preview, let's ask, what is my order status? Then let's add a valid order number. We can see the response that we got back from the API call, and we can see that confirmation message. And if we click on yes, we will be redirected back to this capture user question group, and we can ask follow-up questions. Let's work on the returns intent. So this is when the user asks to return or exchange their items. Let's go to add blocks. Then let's add a new intent trigger. Then under intent, let's create a new intent and let's call this return/exchange request. For the description, let's enter customer wants to return or exchange a product. Let's add a few phrases like, how do I return this item? Or I want to return my purchase. After adding a few phrases, we can then create our intent. Then let's also select it from this drop-down. And very important, we need to go back to our capture users question input, and under match intent, let's also select the return exchange request intent. Now let's go ahead and build this intent route. Let's start by adding a text block. Let's rename this group to confirm return or exchange. For the text, let's enter, do you want to return or exchange an item? Now we want to show a few buttons. So let's go to buttons, let's add it below this text. And for button 1, we can enter return. For button 2, let's enter exchange, and for button 3, let's enter none. Let's also store the user's choice in a new variable called return type, and let's create this variable. Now, if the user selects none, we can actually just redirect them back to this confirmation group. So I'm actually just going to grab none and attach it to the confirmation group. If the user selects return or exchange, we want to collect some information from the user. So let's go to blocks, let's add text, let's rename the group to get order number. And for the initial text, let's enter what's the order number. Let's also go ahead and attach return as well as exchange to the get order number group. Now, after asking the user for the order number, we need the user to provide the order number. So let's add a text block. Then let's store the value of the order number in a variable. And this time we actually don't have to create a variable because we've already created an order number variable. Let's also ask the user for the email address. So I'll add some text and let's change this to what's your email address. Then under add blocks, let's add the email response. And then under save in variable, let's select one of the existing variables called contact email. Then let's follow this up with some more text, like which items from the order do you want to return or exchange? Then of course we have to capture the response from the user. So let's add a text input. Let's create a new variable for this called items for return. Let's create this. And finally, let's ask the user, what's the reason? And let's add a text input just below this. Let's store the reason in a new variable called return reason. Let's create this. And now that we've collected all this information, we can send an email to support. So to send an email from Chatling, we can go to blocks. Then let's add this send email block. Let's rename this to email support. And let's click on configure email. Let's change the from name to support chatbot. Under reply to, let's add curly braces, let's add contact email, and let's click on add. So this simply means that our support will be able to respond directly to the customer. And then the to address, we can make something like leon@vaultvector.io or something like that. And we can click on add. And now the email will be sent to this address. I want the subject to be something like return request received. Or if it wasn't a return, so maybe they chose exchange, then it should be something like exchange request received. Now, thankfully, we can dynamically populate this by using the return type, which we created earlier. And for the email body, I'll simply enter something like this. A customer has submitted a request for return or exchange, so we can use all of the variables collected from over here and add those into the body of the email. And of course, let's add this get order number to the email support group. Now, after we've sent the email, we do want to provide some sort of feedback to the user. So let's add another text block just below this email block with the text, "Thank you, I forwarded your request to our team. You will receive a response soon on the next steps." And finally, let's also connect this email support group to the confirmation group. Right, now let's test this. Let's go to preview. So let's say, hey, I want to return my order. I'll click on return. And what's the order number? Let's enter something like this. What's your email address? I'll just do leon@test.com. Which items do you want to return? I'll just enter all of them. What's the reason? I'll just enter no longer needed, and we get confirmation that the email has been sent, and we can also see that confirmation message, which allows us to continue with the conversation. Now that takes us to the final feature of this chatbot, and that's the ability to hand the conversation over to a human agent. Let's start by adding another intent. Then under this drop down, let's click on create intent. Let's name this human agent/live support. For the description, let's enter customer requests to speak to a human agent or live support. Let's add a few sample phrases like live agent, speak with human, I want to speak to a human, connect me with a real person, etc. After adding a few phrases, let's create this intent. Let's select it from the drop down, and very important, let's go back to our user's question, and under match intent, let's select human agent. Now let's build this human intent flow. So what this flow is going to do is it's actually going to take the entire conversation history with the question that the user wants to ask a human and email all of that to support. From there, some human agent can give the customer a call back. So let's start by adding text. Let's rename this group to collect ticket details. Let's attach these. And for the text, let's enter, I can forward your message to our team and they will get in touch with you. Let's send a follow-up message with something like, what's your email address? And of course, we can now capture the user's email address by using the capture email block. Let's store the email in a variable called contact email, and let's also ask the user for their question. So in a text block, let's send the text, what is your question? And then let's add a text input, which allows the user to capture their question. And let's store that question in a variable called ticket message. and let's create this variable. And then finally, all we have to do is send that email. So under blocks, let's go to send email. Let's rename this group to send email to your support team. And under configure email, we can change the from name to support chatbot. We can then add the user's email address by entering curly braces. Let's select contact email and let's click on add. Then we can enter our email address. So I'll just do leon@vaultvector.io. Let's click on add. And for the subject, we can enter new ticket created. And for the message, we can enter something like this. So the message is a ticket has been received by contact email. For the query, we are passing in the user's question. And we also have this unique variable called conversation content. So as we are sending messages to the chatbot, those messages are automatically appended by Chatling to this conversation content variable. Now, after sending this email, we do want to give the user some feedback. So let's enter something like, your message has been sent to our support team. You will receive a response within 24 hours. And of course, finally, after sending the email, we can simply redirect the user back to this conversation group. Like so. Let's test this. So let's go to preview. Let's say I want to speak to a human. Now we can enter our email address. So I'll just do leon@test.com. What is your question? I need more info on something. And we are getting this confirmation saying that our email has been sent. And now we can continue with this conversation or simply end it. Now, in order to publish this chatbot to your website, all you have to do is save this, then click on publish, and the status should change to published. When you go back to your dashboard, you can go to integrations, and from here you can click on the website widget, which will give you this little piece of code that you need to paste into your website. They also have integration guides based on different platforms. So if you click on these, you can view the documentation on how to add these chatbots to your specific website. Or if you just want to quickly share this chatbot with your client in order for them to test it, you can go to share, create link, simply copy this link and open it in the browser. And you will be able to interact with your chatbot using this web page as well. So this is ideal for prototyping and sharing your chatbot with your clients. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also have a look at this other video on Chatling where we actually embed the chatbot into a website. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.